Welcome! I'm glad you're here. You're listening to Banjo Chat, where I bring in amazing banjo players and chat with them about their life, their music, their stories, their pitfalls, inspirations, and advice. So, join us on this journey into Banjo Chat. Hello, and welcome to the Banjo Chat. I'm your host, Hillary Hawk. And here we are. Guess what? It's a different kind of thing today. It's just me. I've been a little busy lately. I was down in South America. I was down in Chile, Santiago, and I got to collaborate with some great jazz artists, some collaboration. And I was in Santiago. It's amazing. It's summer. It was 86 degrees. It was beautiful. So I didn't really get a chance to get together my research, do the scheduling for this. Hey, it's just me doing this. So, and it does take a lot of work. So, so I thought today might be a good idea to do some listener emails that I haven't been answering, that I haven't been doing anything with because I didn't really know how to handle it. So anyway, I'm filling the gap here today. But Chile, Santiago, amazing. And I was working on my Spanish. Really great time down there. I loved it. So anyway, but I'm back in New York City. I'm back in Brooklyn. And some good news, we got picked up by radio station WSBB 91.7 FM. The southern branch of bluegrass and gospel music is now playing the Banjo Chat podcast on Saturdays, I believe. It might be 8 a.m., so I hope I'm a good voice for the morning. Hello, everybody out there. Thank you for listening. Also, coming up, in the summertime here in the United States, that's where I am. I'm going to be doing the Steve Kaufman Camp. It's June 9th through 15th in Maryville, Tennessee. I'm doing the Old Time Week, and I'll be joined by Joe Newberry, joined with Joe Newberry, Libby Whitenauer, Reed Stutz, who played on my Lily Guild album, Evie Layden, Sarah Morgan, and some other great people. It's going to be an awesome time. I hope you can make it out for that. And if you're on the Patreon, the Banjo Chat Patreon, I'm recording this one. I'm doing a little Zoom recording if you want to see me talking to myself. But no fear, because I do have more interviewees coming up. It just is a little hard to schedule, It's a lot of emailing and, you don't always have time for that. So, but more coming up, and I'm super excited about them. So today we are doing listener emails, and these are a great example of emails that if you have questions, how you can write in. This is exactly the kind of questions that I love to answer, and I think that are helpful to people, and all around great thoughts. So thank you for writing in, and so here we go. Here's our first question, listener question number 1. Hi, Hillary. I just recently found your podcast and have been loving the Banjo Chat. Thank you. As a new and younger performer, do you have any tips to give when performing live and filling in the gaps between the tunes? Oh, yes. I'm still a little uneasy with audience interaction and would like to seem a touch more confident. Thanks, and I hope to hear your insight. Norma from New York. Thank you, Norma. That's a great question. And I think the first thing I would say, and we touched on this like a little bit in the Lisa LeBlanc episode, is that when you're on stage, you have to feel comfortable with being uncomfortable. So you kind of have to just kind of be comfortable being in front of everybody. So even if there's nothing happening and it's completely silent, you have to kind of just embrace the feeling of being in front of people. So with that mindset, I think even if the song ends and the next song begins, if you don't say anything, as long as you look comfortable, it's going to be fine, because the audience can tell as soon as you get uncomfortable, you seem like a little bit uneasy or unafraid. So how do you do that? Well, you kind of have to let go of yourself a little bit and I don't know, this is not really great advice, but not take yourself so seriously, I think, on stage. Laugh at yourself a little bit. And then also plan ahead. You can plan ahead some things that you can say when you feel like you do need to speak. But I always feel like less is more on stage. That people are watching your shoulders. They're watching how your feet move. They're looking at the way your head is turned. They're looking at everything. So, I think it's a little bit of a balance of just like kind of feeling comfortable in your own skin up there. So maybe, okay, so what I was going to say is just get together a few things that you want to say. So every show that I play, I make sure I check in with the audience. I say like, how you doing tonight? How's everybody doing? How you feeling? Can everybody hear me okay? Can everybody hear the band? And sometimes they can't. And that little bit of information is helpful. So just always make sure you check in with the audience. Next, make sure you introduce the band. Make sure you introduce yourself. And then if you have anything that you're selling, point them in that direction. But I will also say there's a difference, when you're talking on stage, about your show or about yourself, there's a difference between talking about yourself and about putting on a show for people. So the way I would explain that is like when you're on stage, I wouldn't like sit there and tell them your whole life story and tell them you got 3 dogs and you like cooking eggs in the morning. Like I wouldn't go there. I would say, what does this song mean to you and why are you playing this song? That's you're presenting something for the audience, and why are you presenting that for them? It's less about you personally, and it's more about like what you want to give the audience. So when you're standing up there between the songs, think about like why did you choose this song, and what is this song about? Who wrote the song? Did you write the song? And what do you want to convey with that song? And it's more about what you want to present to the audience, if that makes sense. And I think that takes the emphasis off of yourself personally, like the deep, dark parts of your inside. It's not really about that. It's more about what kind of presentation do you want to give people? What do you want to have them leave the room with? And that might be a feeling of excitement. It might be a feeling of community. Like I would say, like sit down and think about like what are the values that you have. This is turning now into like a college thesis. What are the values that you have, and why are you doing the show? And I think that's really important and always kind of helps why we put in the time and the effort to perform and practice. So, all right. Did I over answer that question? Yes. But anyway, that's how I feel about it. All right. So, okay. Question number 2. Listener question. Hey, Hillary. I'm in my 10th year of noodling with the banjo. I like the podcast and the great guests and the chats you have done so far and can't wait for more to come. Well, all right. Thanks. I am very much not a professional musician, but I enjoy getting time to play as it is available. Okay. It seems living in a place like New York City gives you plenty of options to play and get to know other musicians. Yep. I live in a small ruralish town and would like to know what you think would be the best way to meet other musicians to get together and jam. Hope to hear from you, and if you are ever in Arizona, I would love to play with you sometime. Oh, Brad from the desert. Oh, I'd love to play with you too, Brad. My best friend lives out there in Arizona, and I would love to get out there sometime. So, yeah, so it's totally different being in a rural area than being in the city. And I have to admit, I haven't lived in a very isolated place in a long time. So I think I would beware of posting on any kind of forum, any kind of, I don't know if you have Craigslist out there or Nextdoor. Those are like community forums. I would beware of posting on those. As a woman, I just wouldn't do that. But I think even as any person, because you just don't know if your personalities are going to mesh, and you might end up getting into a situation that's going to be hard to get out of, like whether you don't like the other person's music or blah, blah, blah. So I would not go that route. I would go, if you really don't have much access to like music or or like people out there, I would go to like a music store. If you can find a music store, go to a music store, see if they have any listings on the corkboard. See if they have a private instructor. Talk to the private instructor and tell them that you're looking for other people, or take a lesson from that person and see if they have any recommendations. I would reach out to like a music store like that. I would also start going to shows, small local shows, if there are any bars or venues that have music. I would start going to those shows, seeing who's there, and striking up a conversation with those people, seeing if they play music. Yeah, it's tough out there. If you have jams, I know not every place has jams where you can go and play with other people. But yeah, definitely jams. You could find somebody. And if you don't have anything, maybe consider starting something up and just start doing like a Facebook group or something like that, where you are the person that's starting the discussion, starting the conversation, and people might end up coming to you and as the guide. And it almost seems like this person that wrote in Brad, it almost seems like you have that energy where you want to be almost like in the mix of that. So maybe you would be a good person to help start that whole thing up. So anyway, that's something to think about. I know I ran the Old Time Slow Jam here in Brooklyn, New York for 7 or 8 years with Charlie Shaw on bass. No, Charlie Shaw playing guitar. He does play bass. And my friend Karen Dahlstrom playing bass. And I ran that for 7 years. It was great. And then we just stopped doing it after COVID. But people still reach out to me for that jam and to connect them with other people. So you never know what you do, how it's going to affect people in the long run. So that's what I would say about that. All right, I hope that's helpful. All right, last question, listener question. This is number 3. Hi, Hillary. Thanks for doing the podcast and highlighting a bunch of artists that I had never heard of before, but I'm so obsessed with now. Oh, that's awesome. Great. It sounds like you get into a lot of different playing situations and gigs, and I'm wondering, do you have any crazy gig stories? Kristen from Lake Placid, New York. All right, Lake Placid. Love it. Let me think. There's so many gig stories, and a lot of them involve drinking, and many of them, the craziness happens after the gig. But let me just try to think. Well, should I tell that one? Oh, guys. No, you know what? I'm going to tell this one because this one's pretty it's not run of the mill, but it's like, yeah. Okay, this one. All right. So I was playing a gig in Brooklyn, in Williamsburg, and I was doing a trio show with my friend John Dyer, guitar player, and my ex Brian on drums, and me on banjo. And our group was called Hawk and Owl. This is a long time ago. This is like 16, 17 years ago. Anyway, we were playing this trio gig. We were supposed to play a trio gig. It's snowing. It's winter in New York. Snowing. It's when it snowed still. And we're driving through Manhattan, going to the gig. We had like a half an hour to get to the gig and set up. And woo, police lights behind us. And Brian is driving. So he pulls over the car. It's my car. He pulls over the car. The cop comes over, comes to the window. Brian doesn't have his license. Or his license expired. I can't remember what happened. They take him out of the car. No. They ask him to drive to the police station, which is like a mile away. He drives to the police station, parks the car. They ask him to get out. They handcuff him because he doesn't have his license. So they take him away. We can't even say anything. So I don't have my license. For some reason, I don't have my license either because I wasn't driving, and I don't know. You don't take your license with you sometimes. That I usually do. I don't know what happened there, but for some reason I didn't take my license. So I couldn't drive. The cop wouldn't let me take the car, and John couldn't drive. He doesn't know how to drive. So we gather our stuff, tons of equipment, tons of gear, and we take a car service. We go to the venue. We show up. We explain to the managers what happened. We get on stage. We start playing. 2 songs in, Brian walks in, and everyone starts cheering. It's like a full packed venue. Everyone starts cheering for him. They thought he broke out of jail because we had told them I guess we had said something about him going to jail. Like, I don't know, we blew up the story. He comes out, he shows up, everybody's cheering, and he just walks up on stage and starts playing with us. And I don't know. That to me was just like a very, very funny gig and very funny New York moment that I don't know, maybe that happens more in other cities, but that just never happened to me since then or before then. So, yeah. That was really exciting. But lots of debauchery and lots of craziness has happened like that. And but I'm wondering about your stories. And if you have a crazy gig story, if you're a listener out there and you have a crazy gig story, I have more. But I can't tell if this is interesting or not. If you want to hear me keep telling stories about crazy gigs. But I want to hear about yours. And so if you have a crazy gig story, write it in, especially if it deals with banjo. I'd love to hear it. And yeah, and that'd be really great to hear. I also think that sharing these stories with each other on here is a great way to feel even more fulfilled with playing music and with working on your instrument. Because does it really matter if you're professional or not? Does it really matter if you're out there playing festivals or selling out a 500-seat theater? Yeah, if you want to make money, yeah. I'm just thinking about fulfillment and happiness. And especially as we get older, I just would love to share some of these stories and hear about what you're doing and hear how some of those experiences have affected other people, because that like exchange, that like giving back of music and sharing these things is like, I don't know, it fulfills me. It makes me happy. It's why I do this. It's why I do this podcast. It's one of the reasons why I do the podcast, and it's why I play music. You know, I'm happy I get to do this. I'm happy I get to play music, play the banjo, and it's, you know, if it didn't make me happy, I wouldn't keep doing it. So anyway, well, this has been a short one because I have another interview on Friday, and that guest is coming up soon. So thank you all for listening. Thank you for doing some listener mail today. Please write in with any questions or comments. You can email us at banjochatpodcast@gmail.com. Stay tuned for more, and you can follow us on Instagram at banjochat. All right, see you soon. Bye. If you'd like to support the Banjo Chat podcast, check out our new Patreon page at patreon.com/banjochat. Also, give us a like, a review, and subscribe, and that'll help boost it along so we can keep making these for you. Thanks.